Hello viewers. Taehyung cried after learning Jungkook didn't want to go back to the way things were. What happened? Welcome to my channel. Before we dive into this emotional unraveling of friendship, pressure, and impossible choices, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss the full truth about BTS, because sometimes, the real story isn't in the music. It's in the silence between the notes. Now let's begin. Imagine being part of the most iconic boy band in the world, where every moment is a performance, every smile a symbol, every silence an echo of something left unsaid. ARMY. What if we told you? Taehyung cried, truly cried, after learning something he never expected from Jungkook. And what if that something was Jungkook's chilling confession, that he doesn't want to go back to the way things were? What does that even mean? Was it about BTS? Was it about him and Taehyung? And why is HYB staying so silent? Taehyung and Jungkook, the eternal soulmates of BTS. The duo that ARMYs affectionately called Taekook, bonded not just by music, but by something deeper. From their early years in a cramped dorm, when they were just boys chasing a dream, to standing on the world's biggest stages together, they had laughed, fought, cried, and healed together. But lately, things had changed. There were signs. Small ones. Averted glances during live streams. Less interaction on stage. Longer periods apart. Some fans chalked it up to military enlistment schedules, solo careers, or the natural evolution of friendships. But those who looked closer, who watched not just the performance, but the person, knew something wasn't right. And then came the moment. The moment Taehyung heard those words from Jungkook. Words that hit like a cold wave on a warm memory. I don't want to go back to the way things were. He didn't say it publicly. There were no press releases. No Weverse post. It was said quietly, perhaps in a studio, perhaps over the phone, perhaps after months of unspoken tension. But the impact? Shattering. For Taehyung, those words were more than just a sentence. They were a crack in the foundation of a decade-long brotherhood. Why would Jungkook say that? What had changed? To understand that, we need to go back. To a time before butter, before dynamite, before the world bowed to 7 boys from South Korea. Back then, Jungkook was just 15. The youngest. The golden magne. He was playful, shy, and unsure of who he was. And Taehyung, just a year older, became his mirror, his shield, his partner in mischief and emotion. They navigated the chaos of training, media pressure, hate comments, and sleepless nights, together. But what if, as they grew older, that closeness became a cage? What if Jungkook began to feel defined by a version of himself he no longer recognized? Fame can be a blessing and a curse. Especially when the world only sees the version of you that they want, not who you are now. In recent interviews and live streams, Jungkook began to show subtle signs. He talked more about personal space. About evolving. About wanting to live for himself. In one particularly emotional moment during his solo promotions, he said something many ARMYs didn't fully catch. Sometimes it feels like I'm not allowed to grow up in people's eyes, but I have to. That wasn't just about his music. That was about identity. And maybe, just maybe, Taehyung hadn't realized how far apart they'd grown. So when he heard Jungkook say he didn't want to go back to the way things were, it wasn't rejection. It was revelation. And Taehyung cried. Not because of betrayal, but because of grief. Grief for a bond that had shifted. For a time that felt like forever, but turned out to be temporary. For memories that now came with the sting of change. Sources close to the industry have whispered that there was a private meeting, only the two of them. It wasn't explosive. No yelling. No drama. Just raw, vulnerable truth. And when Taehyung walked out of that room, his eyes were red. He had told someone, maybe a staff member, maybe Jimin, that he never imagined this would be the ending. But was it really the end? Or just the painful beginning of something new? Because here's the twist, Jungkook didn't say he didn't love BTS. He didn't say he hated the past. He just didn't want to return to it. And that's different. That's powerful. Because sometimes, even the closest of bonds need to stretch, to breathe, to find their own rhythm again. But for Taehyung, whose heart beats in poetry and nostalgia, the past wasn't just a memory, it was home. So what do you do when your home decides to walk away? And what if that home was never yours to begin with? The days that followed were unusually quiet. No joint live streams. No surprise V-Live appearances. No playful banter on Weverse. Just silence and a growing unease in the fandom. Some armies speculated that maybe this was just a phase. Others dove deep, analyzing every lyric, every Instagram story, every fleeting glance in behind-the-scenes footage. But the truth is, when two souls drift apart, it doesn't always come with drama. Sometimes, it comes with peace. A painful peace. And yet, Taehyung, being the artist of emotion that he is, couldn't hide it. He's always been the most transparent member when it comes to feelings. Whether it was his grief over his grandmother, his tears at concerts, or his poetic letters to fans, Taehyung wears his heart like a badge. So when he cried, after hearing Jungkook's quiet confession, it wasn't weakness. It was love. A love that was being rewritten. And maybe that's what broke him the most. Because for years, Taekook wasn't just a ship. It was an anchor. A reminder that no matter how chaotic the world got, there was someone who knew the real you. Who saw the boy beneath the stardust. But Jungkook? He was becoming a man who needed space to breathe without being someone else's anchor. And Taehyung? He had to learn to let go without falling apart. Behind the scenes, HYB was said to be aware of the shift. Not just between Jungkook and Taehyung, but within the entire group. The members were growing, changing, evolving into solo artists with their own visions and fears. What once was a synchronized dance is now a mosaic of individual movements. What do you think really happened between Jungkook and Taehyung? Was this the end of an era, or just the beginning of a new one? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read everything. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep dive BTS stories, and share this with a fellow ARMY who needs to hear the truth behind the headlines. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and never stop listening for the stories between the silence.